Hi everyone, Alex from AutoStore here. So this is episode 9 of how to design an AutoStore, and we are on to pretty much the last port I'll be talking about. So they're the Fusion port and the Fusion port staging. So they're the latest ports that we've brought out for picking. So the Fusion ports are actually so new that I've never seen one in a working warehouse. I've only ever seen them in the Innovation Centre over in Norway. So I haven't got loads of images or experience of how they've worked in situ. It's mainly based on looking at how they've been used in designs. So let's start with the Fusion port. So the Fusion port has 2 bins presented to the picker. Now that massively speeds up things. So we can get a bin presentations per hour of 550. So it sits between the carousel port and the Fusion port in terms of max throughput. But as you can see as well, is the bins are actually angled at 15 degrees. So it just makes it a little bit more ergonomic for the operators to be able to pick out of. The ports are also slightly higher up as well, so there's less reaching into the bins. So the Fusion port was brought out to allow for 2 bin presentations, so it's much easier if you're batch picking. And also just that 15 degree makes it far more ergonomic. So I'll just quickly show how the Fusion port works from a mechanical point of view. So as we know, there's 2 openings for bins, so 2 robots can deliver bins at the same time. So they'll be delivered directly to the port at the front, and you can see there's built-in pick to light. So the way the solution's actually working is the robots are placing the bins on almost trays, and those trays are shuttled to the front of the port and then angled up. So you can see they're really nice and quick to exchange. And you can have 2 bins presented at the same time, or just to help with your pick rate, one then the other. So moving on to the Fusion port staging. So the Fusion port staging has 4 bin openings. So it's essentially a Fusion port in the middle with 2 additional bin openings on either side. Now the way it is designed for is to stage products onto the grid and pre-picking. So this might be staging orders onto the system that you'd normally have to consolidate with uglies, or if you're having a later collection for those particular products, you can pick to a target tote back onto the system, and then they can be fired out later on at the end of the day. So there's a lot of ways you might use it to consolidate. If you've got uglies, then maybe you'll pre-pick all of the small parts that are in the AutoStore into these target totes. They'll be stored on the AutoStore, and then they'll be moved to maybe a separate port where you're doing consolidation with larger oversized products. The Fusion port staging has got a throughput of the same 550 in the middle as the Fusion port, and the target totes can be cycled at 400 bins per hour. So technically, you could do 950 bin presentations per hour through a Fusion port staging, but I've never seen that actually happen in practice. I mean, the truth is, I've never seen a Fusion port in situation working within a warehouse. I've only ever seen it at the Innovation Centre. So because it's a relatively new port, we just haven't got the live installs for me to talk about how it's actually been applied. So onto the mechanical way the Fusion port staging actually works. So there are 4 openings for robots to deliver bins, and the central section, the Fusion port, works in exactly the same way as the video I showed before. But you can see either side there are those target bins to be picking into. So they work in a very similar way with those trays, shuttling them down to the end, but they just don't angle them up. But it's exactly the same process for both the central and outer cavities. So that's it for the Fusion port and Fusion port staging this week. Like I say, I haven't got as much experience with these 2 ports because I just haven't seen them installed in situ in the UK just yet. I will be going to Norway in the next few weeks, so I'm hoping to actually see one running in a warehouse. So I'll maybe record a video of that actually working and can feed back how that looks. Next week, we're going to talk briefly about the pickup port. So this is the port used for in-store picking or out-of-hours click and collect. Tune in next week. Cheers.